And now the chat shows countdown begins.
Good evening. Good evening. Welcome to the XENA Star Salon's inaugural session. I'm Poonam Arora, hosting this show, and my guest today is Colonel V.D. Singh.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, Colonel Saab. Kaise hain aap?
All well, ma'am.
Good. Since this is an inaugural show, I will say a few words about what is the purpose of this show and what we will be attempting week after week. As some of you know, we have identified some key facets of the XENA world community, and our focus for the coming year is a civil society, an alternative arts education, and building a COVID or inshallah, post-COVID lifestyle. Colonel V.D. Singh is an accomplished musician, a varied, diverse, and accomplished musician. I want to say a few words about him prior to his coming to being a musician or parallel to his being a musician. He's come from the military. He has served as an engineer. And now his passion is music, or shall we say, experimenting with music. You might ask, what's music got to do with a civil society, alternative arts education, and a COVID lifestyle? You'll find out. Colonel Saab, tell us first about what instruments you play and what is your passion about music all about?
Right, Poonam ma'am. I have actually grown up with music. Never had any formal training in music, whether it's singing or playing. I play a host of instruments, but my recognition in the professional world has been as a bass guitarist. Although I have played drums, guitar, synthesizer, piano, various types of percussion instruments like djembe, darbuka, active participation with the drum circles. I was in Delhi Drum Circle and a founder member of Gurgaon Drum Circle. And I think well over 30 odd musical instruments which I play, besides singing and composing. Post-retirement, I'm doing nothing else but making music in my little home studio. And the whole idea is to, bring happiness to the environment.
Thank you for that. I am fascinated by drum circles. I myself have been a member of a drum circle for a very long time. And this helps me to connect with the kind of community that is the drum circle. Would you tell us something about what is a drum circle, how it operates, and how it builds community?
Yes, ma'am. My first interaction with the drum circle was way back in 2009 when I got posted to Army headquarters. And there every weekend we used to have this informal gathering at Deer Park, that is Green Park in Delhi. People from various walks of life, including kids, 5, 6, 7-year-old kids, and then going right up to senior citizens, different types of people. Every person used to have something in his hand, I mean, I have seen kids carrying empty mineral bottles filled with pebbles so that it can make some noise, while grown-ups would carry with them various types of djembe and a darbuka of various sizes. The only one thing which was common was that everyone was in sync. The very idea of having a drum circle is to bring some kind of semblance of synchronization amongst each other, because that's the best way to communicate. So my takeaway from the drum circle was that at the end of the day, you make some good friends. Even if you are not speaking to the other person, there is a spiritual connect with the other person. You are in sync when you are playing. When you're playing something which produces rhythm, you automatically get into sync with the other person. Yeah.
Thank you. And that indeed is lovely, because we get in sync with each other, not because of our words, not because of our ideas, but because of our heartbeat. And I think that is so beautiful.
Yes, ma'am.
It occurs to me that that kind of connecting through our heartbeats, or in a visceral way, without words, without ideas, without ideology, without politics, is missing in our society today. What do you think is the role that music can play besides drum circle? How can we create community or a civil society through music?
Music by itself is a way of expressing yourself. Communicating through this kind of an expression brings about a homogeneous build-up, because we all are busy in our own spheres. In the daily rut of life, we hardly get time to entertain ourselves. When we talk about entertaining, it generally boils down to watching the idiot box and not really utilizing your time in a meaningful way. Whereas when you get into music, even though you may not be an active participant as a musician, even as a good listener to the music, there is always a sense of peace, harmony, serenity, and you find that for those moments you are away from the mundane stuff of life. Music does not distract you. Music basically brings you closer to yourself. When you want to introspect something, you play music and you start thinking, and then you find that it is so useful. Yeah.
But there is a critical role that is played by fellow listeners of music. These days, there are hardly any concerts. We don't build neighborhoods or cities or towns or even villages that have a common space where people can gather to sing or dance.
Correct.
What can we do in this age of social media to somehow recreate that public space through music?
Ma'am, it all depends upon the circumstances, the place where you're living. I mean, if you're living in a society, many things are possible and they are doable. Like every society has a community hall or a club where these things can be done. You can always create a group of like-minded people, starting from creating a WhatsApp group, bring them together, and then perhaps motivate them to come out with their own musical abilities. One doesn't have to be a professional musician to get into this. The moment you find that there is a group of people with whatever little knowledge of music they have, and they start interacting with each other, an informal kind of a band is created. You see, every band has a very, very humble beginning. Even Ventures, the famous instrumentalist group of the Western world, and Beatles, They all started as boys of 14 and 15 years, singing and playing in the streets.
Or in their garages.
Yeah, and this is how things develop, and you find that perhaps you have been feeling a little shy of coming out with your own feelings as far as music is concerned. And the moment an informal band is formed, there are a lot of things which happen. Things happen. I have seen in my own life also. I also started playing at the age of 14 or 15 years. I was a little hesitant in the beginning, but later on, by the time I reached college, I had formed my own band in Lucknow. We were professional band. We were hardly 19, 20 years old boys. So you certainly find, you explore in yourself that music can bring around so many things. So you are not only enjoying yourself, but your music is also affecting the other people.
I agree, but what I'm getting at is that we are constrained by social distancing these days. We have curfews, we have lockdowns. We are not able to assemble in a common public space.
Correct.
So let's explore the possibility of creating a virtual drum circle or a band or whatever, using technology. Is that possible? Have you heard of it?
Ma'am, it is not only possible, it's happening. It's already happening all over the world. The only problem with us over here is that there are network issues, there are latency issues. The flow of data is not that smooth, because when we talk about performing music from different geographical locations, the only thing which has to stay perfect is the network speed, because music is all about synchronizing. If there is a latency or if there's a break in the network, the other person who is playing may not be heard, or may be heard after a fraction of a second, but then that spoils the music. So these are technical issues, which if these issues are addressed, then there is no problem, ma'am. People have been performing from various locations together, monitoring and performing, and with a zero kind of a latency. It is happening.
Wow. This makes me very hopeful. I want to get to a related area of expertise and experience that we've talked about in the past, and something that most people are not that familiar with. And that is another kind of communal music, but it's not only music. This is what you've experienced and you've talked about in other contexts, is the Tibetan choral singing of monks in Ladakh. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, that experience which I've had is very, very unique. 2015 to 2017, I was posted in Ladakh. And there I got opportunity to interact with the monks and also the local musicians. And that's how I came to know about Tibetan music. I had heard about Tibetan music before also. But over there, I saw with my own eyes the native instruments which are being played by them. And in the monasteries, they chant using a very different kind of a vocal technique, which is known as throat singing. In throat singing, you are not just singing from here. You are actually, the sound is coming out from deep within, which is known as throat singing, and the sound which is generated is something which is not done by a normal human being. You can always log on to those throat singing experts on YouTube. They are also known as Tuvan singers, Tuvan, Tuvan singing. I picked up that technique. The only part with that is that it cannot be done instantly. One has to prepare. If I want to start doing throat singing, I have to prepare myself, perhaps have a cup of hot water or something to absolutely clear my throat. And when I'm singing, I'm also making a whistling sound, singing and whistling together. It seems impossible, but it happens. It has originated from Mongolia, and then of course all over the world. The other part is the use of their native instruments, which includes didgeridoo. Then they have those percussion instruments and stringed instruments also, like dramien. I have played all these instruments because I have been playing other instruments. It was not difficult for me to pick up those instruments. And in 2019, I created my own album on Tibetan jazz fusion music because of my orientation towards jazz, Western jazz. Unfortunately, because of COVID, things came to a standstill. And that album is still there with me in my studio. And I'm hoping for the best that in 2022, I should be able to release that to the world. On my own. I've got my own YouTube channel, VD Singh 8. So I'm hoping that this album will be available to each one of you.
We look forward to it. We look forward to it, certainly. I've heard that the impact of this Tibetan music is not just, perhaps it's incorrect to even call it music. It is a kind of meditation, and it generates, I'm told, a kind of vibration that is received by the bodies. So we listen to it not with our ears, but with our whole bodies.
That's right.
Something happens whereby the level of our ego, or my understanding of who I am in this community related to this one or that one, is diminished, and a more collective sense of who we are emanates from listening to this. Can you
Absolutely
elaborate on that?
Yes, ma'am. You see, the Tibetan music has a different different flavor altogether. We cannot categorize it in a particular genre like jazz music or R&B or something else. You cannot give it any name. All those people who are practicing Buddhism, they know it much better because Tibetan music forms an integral part of that. And in this, the kind of music which is there, it is not meant for dance also. एक जैसे कहते हैं ना कि हिंदी में मनोरंजन नहीं है, वो होता है आत्मरंजन के लिए. It connects you with God, and those sounds which are produced are having very few notes. जैसे हमारे हिंदी में हिंदी शास्त्र के हिसाब से जो राग बने हुए हैं अलग अलग थाटों के ऊपर आधारित, वो बिल्कुल अलग चीज है. बिकॉज उसमें देयर आर लॉट ऑफ डूज एंड डोंट्स. तिब्बतन म्यूजिक के अंदर जो हम नोट्स लगाते हैं, दोज नोट्स मे बी फ्यू, बट उसके अंदर ही इतना डाइवर्सिफिकेशन होता है with those few instruments. The best part is that in Tibetan music you don't have a huge orchestra. You have got couple of blowing instruments. There are no brass instruments, some stringed instruments and percussions. Some instruments which are monotonous. That means they produce only one kind of tone, and that tone vibrates your mind. So it so happens that it creates a kind of a vibration inside you and around you, which gives you a very kind of a surreal kind of a feeling. Very difficult to express as we are talking. You have to listen to that kind of music. Unfortunately, I can't produce that music here because I'm not sitting in my studio. So you to get the feel of that, I again suggest you go on YouTube and find out for yourself how the monks are chanting those mantras. Like all of us know that there's a very, very powerful mantra, Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. When this Nam-myoho Renge-kyo is chanted by 100 or 200 people in different octaves, it creates an energy field around you. Although the chanting is monotonous. So you have to understand the subtle part of that. इसी तरीके से मंत्र है, हमारे जो वैदिक मंत्र है वो 3 स्वरों पर आधारित होता है. सिर्फ 3 स्वर लगते हैं उसके ऊपर. सब सुनते हैं, महामृत्युंजय mantra आप ले लीजिए, similarly other types of mantra. Music, again, when we talk about music, music is a great way of expressing yourself, for not for your own manoranjan, but connecting you with the Almighty, or connecting you with the people who are in front of you.
We are seemingly jumping from one thing to the other, but I hope that people can see a sort of a continuity argument that I'm trying to build, that music is not just musicality or lyrics. It resonates at different levels, and it impacts not just our ears, but our body, and most importantly, our mind. And while we're sampling the various kinds of music that you are so proficient at, tell us about your encounters with jazz.
Right, ma'am. I have never received any formal education in music. So I always, whenever somebody talks to me, I always, with my folded hand, I say that whatever little I know about music, mostly it just comes out from me. I don't know from where it has come, but I think I have inherited music from my mother. She was a very good singer herself. But my interest in music has been particularly in jazz music. Why in jazz music? ये जो सारा जो संगीत है, चाहे वेस्टर्न कैसी है, everything has come from here only, from our own country. ये राग हुए और जो उनके जिन थाटों पे आधारित है, हजारों साल पुरानी है. Western music and blues and all that, they have just come up in last 200 years. उसके पहले कोई पता ही नहीं था किसी को. However, jazz music is one particular genre which takes you out from the format. That means you are free to express. You are not, you're not encased, let's say, within the boundaries of convention. So the shackles of convention are broken the moment you get into jazz music. And obviously, jazz music was a great way of expression by the black slaves who wanted to air their opinion by singing, because these Africans are naturally talented. Either somebody is playing guitar or just playing drums and singing. So jazz singing is something which is which talks about improvisation only. Just keep on improvising something, it gets a jazz orientation, which I have been doing in my music.
There is also a very key concept in jazz. It's called dissonance.
Correct.
Correct. Something about, so we always think, अरे ये सुर से बाहर चला गया, या ये सुर में नहीं है, या ये नोट इस राग में नहीं लगता है.
नहीं लगता है. Correct.
We are used to a very constrained notion of what is musicality.
Absolutely.
But in jazz, there is a virtue in stepping out of that which is the musical.
Correct, ma'am. Correct.
Can you say something about that?
Yes, ma'am. But sometimes what happens, like I pick up an existing song. So, and I'm very honest that I get into creative plagiarism many times, because somebody else has composed the music, somebody wrote the lyrics, and that music has been existing for decades. But I'm reproducing the same thing. I'm not doing remixing. I'm totally against that. So when I'm reproducing that and I'm putting some expression from my side, some of them, which are known as accidental notes, they are a deliberate thing. ऐसा नहीं कि गलती से लग गया है. So when we talk about jazz music, when I gave a jazz orientation to an existing song, I use those things. So it just comes, in the passing. I'm transiting from one bar to other bar. Utne beech mein, half or 1/4 of a note is slightly away from the rest. It basically gives a different flavor to the song. Accidental notes.
I like your expression, creative plagiarism. I will just say, with the emphasis on creative and not on plagiarism. Correct. But that is where your artistry lies. I want to connect the concept of jazz to Indian classical music. हम ये बहुत सुनते हैं कि jazz is improvisational, Indian music is improvisational, but they're not improvisational in the same way.
Yes.
Yes. So can you elaborate on that?
Yeah. I'll give you an example, ma'am. Last night I was creating a track in my own studio. फिल्म चित्रलेखा का एक गाना है, रोशन साहब का स्वरबद्ध किया हुआ है, मोहम्मद रफी साहब का गाया हुआ, मन रे तू काहे न धीर धरे, ये राग यमन पर आधारित है. मुझे शास्त्रीय संगीत का कोई बहुत खास ज्ञान नहीं है, बिकॉज ये जो सॉन्ग है इसने मेरे दिल को छू लिया, मुझे अच्छा लगा ये सॉन्ग. सो आई हैव एक्चुअली नो राइट टू make any changes in this song. That will be a sin, a cardinal sin which I'll be committing if I do that. However, जो उसका जो background music जो चल रहा है, supporting music, उसके अंदर I try to bring in my knowledge of Western music, that is harmonization. Now it's very important to know कि जो हमारा जो भारतीय संगीत है उसके अंदर chord जो बोलते हैं ना, combination of 3 notes, वो concept नहीं है. ये मोनोटोन्स वाली चीजें हैं, पॉलीफोनी वाली चीज नहीं है इसके अंदर. बट व्हेन यू ट्राई एंड ऐड समथिंग विदाउट किलिंग द स्पिरिट ऑफ द ओरिजिनल सॉन्ग, गाना बिल्कुल वही है, उसके साथ जो सपोर्टिंग म्यूजिक है, in which I fill with the ensemble, cello, violins, vibraphone, and sometimes live guitar also. और उस वेस्टर्न नॉलेज का इस्तेमाल करते हुए I fill in the background of that particular song. The original song remains as it is. This kind of a beautiful blending is all about, experimenting with music. In my case, it's a jazz fusion, which I do. And in a day or two, I'll be putting it on the YouTube, and then you can see for yourself, and of course, enjoy that.
Yeah, thank you. We look forward to it. I'm trying to get to a more philosophical, or should I say, different concept, that in Indian classical music, there are some very strict limits that you cannot use this note in the going up scale. You cannot use this in the going down scale.
Correct.
You cannot use this combination of notes.
Correct.
And there are certain notes that are not allowed in the entire rag, even if it plays for several hours. Okay, that's how strict our classical music is. But
Correct.
even within those very strict constraints, there are musicians who improvise at the spur of the moment. They didn't rehearse this. This just comes to them there and then. And therein lies the absolute marvel of Indian classical music. So that's one kind of improvisation.
Absolutely.
But in jazz, there are no constraints. They can go anywhere they like. They can return or not even return to the base symphony.
Correct.
And having lived in the US and actually been close to some very evolved centers of jazz, I learned that this ability to step out, break the rules, is a liberty that certain people needed to take because they did not have that liberty in their social lives.
Correct.
We know that jazz evolved at the beginning of the 20th century, and technically there was no slavery at that time in America.
Yeah.
But we also know that there was oppression and there was social distance and social hierarchies, and people that engaged in jazz lived within very constrained lives. They could not live in any certain neighborhoods. They could not walk on a certain side of the street. They could not marry certain people. So there were a lot of constraints on Black people, even as late as the early 20th century. And I would say in the 21st century as well. So jazz became this sort of secret and coded way of breaking the rules while making music. And nobody could tell them, you've broken the rules, because this is their music, right?
Correct. Correct.
I wonder if through your experimentation, we may be able to imbibe this spirit of breaking the rules in India. And I say this because we break the rules in the sense that we drive against the traffic, we break the rules, we break the curfew with it. But we are not able to break the rules in a way that we call innovation.
Correct.
So can you talk to me about jazz and innovation in the Indian context? We have immense innovation in our music and in some of our arts, but innovation is not a quality we value. We know how to copy very well. हम जुगाड़ लगाने में बहुत उस्ताद हैं, जुगाड़ लगा सकते हैं, लेकिन कुछ नया नहीं बनाते ज़्यादातर. So correct. Is it possible that we might introduce our very young children to the concept of innovation at any level through music or any other art form for that matter?
Ma'am, quite possible. It's a question of your mindset. I tell you, when you study about music in films, एक ज़माना था जब singing a filmy song was like it was a blasphemy. When you talk about those पुराने उस्ताद बड़े गुलाम अली साहब हुए, and the contemporary जो भी हैं, वो मतलब फिल्मी गाना नहीं गाना है तो पक्का राग गाना है. However, in the name of experimentation with music, famous music producer, music directors like Kanu Roy, if you hear the music which Kanu Roy ने तो बंगाली गाने बनाता था, but 71 में एक मूवी आई थी अनुभव, very 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 beautiful movie. उसके सारे गाने जो हैं वो डिफरेंट हैं, आप उन गानों को कभी कंपेयर भी नहीं कर सकते. दो सॉन्ग्स वर काइंड ऑफ एक्सपेरिमेंटेशन. कोई ना जो भी हिंदी गाने बनेंगे कोई ना कोई राग पे आधारित होता है, बट ही डिड नॉट कन्फाइन हिमसेल्फ विद इन दोज पैरामीटर्स. उसने कुछ मिला जुला के किए, और उसमें एक गाना बहुत फेमस है, फिर कहीं कोई फूल खिला चाहत ना का, फिर कहीं कोई फूल खिला चाहत ना कहो उसको. एक लाइन मैंने गाई इसकी, बट again, I re-recorded this song in my own studio and I have put it on my channel. कभी अगर आप लोगों को सुनना हो जरूर सुनेगा. So Kanu Roy was the music director of this. Similarly, other famous music directors, कल्याण जी, आनंद जी, शंकर जयकिशन, एंड राहुल देव बर्मन को आप क्यों बोलते हैं? राहुल देव बर्मन he was assistant to his own father for many years, सचिन दा के साथ. बट बाद में राहुल देव बर्मन ने जो क्लासिकल धुनें बनाई हैं उसके ऊपर उसने ऑर्केस्ट्रेशन किया हुआ है. that itself is a very big experiment. लता का गाना रहना बीती जाए शाम ना आए, फिर वो अमर प्रेम के गाने सारे आप देखिए. These are all successful experiments with music without hurting the sentiment of Indian music. लेकिन अभी भी when we talk about jazz music, very selected groups are there who actually jazz. Music jazz music is a different thing altogether, because of the very nature of jazz music. That's why we have got jazz groups in almost all big cities like Delhi, Bangalore, Mumbai. There are jazz lovers and they only promote jazz music. So now to bring in this kind of a thing in children is not an easy thing. Everyone likes music. The only thing is, in the present times, more of noise, rhythmic noise, I must say, जो DJ culture है, उसने सत्यानाश करके रख दिया है. Music is never bad. Music is always good. The presentation may be good or bad. Now, you see, even, wherever you're living, you keep hearing this loud DJ noise with a very kind of a, noisy music. Rhythm aa rahi hai, dhak, 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 and people are dancing on that only. And sometimes they forget that they are dancing on that noise, or they are dancing on the noise of generator. So, ये subtle difference बहुत जरूरी है लाना. So we have to actually imbibe when we say the music appreciation को बहुत बचपन से देना चाहिए. Unfortunately, it is not taught formally in any of the schools. ये किसी टाइम पे गुरुकुल प्रथा जब चलती थी तब होता था. Yes, appreciation for music. अभी appreciation for music करके कोई ऐसी चीज है ही नहीं. So how will you imbibe? When you imbibe this particular thing in children, you'll find that they will become better citizens. क्योंकि music का जो communication होता है वो बहुत different होता है. It is pure. It doesn't have any agenda. It is not judgmental at all. So that's how music affects all of us.
And it is important to underscore that while a child is learning to listen to music and appreciate music, that the child understands what exactly is innovative about this music. Because they only learn to imitate, they don't learn to innovate.
Correct.
So,
yeah, ma'am, I would like to submit over here is that when you see various schools and colleges, wherever this musical festival takes place, people are trying to copy that particular singer. Yes. Kishore Kumar, Asha Bhosle, Lata Mangeshkar, and they're trying to match the pitch. This is not about producing good music. Lata Mangeshkar is an individual who can never be cloned. Kishore Kumar was an iconic singer who can never be cloned. हमारी जो अंदर every person has his or her own vocal cord range. उस range के मुताबिक हमको गाना चाहिए. And one should not try and copy. When we say copying a song, it's a very bad way of singing or producing something. Because the moment you start copying something, उसी pitch के ऊपर, the listener is going to watch you and will compare original song with the one which you are producing, and obviously there is a deviation. So वो हमेशा बोलेगा आपने अच्छा नहीं गाया इसको, because you're trying to go on top of your voice. कि जो लता जी third or fourth octave, fifth octave तक चली जाती हैं, तो everyone cannot go to that octave. Similar thing goes with the singers like Frank Sinatra and Nat King Cole. With rich baritone voice, somebody tries to copy them. Copy नहीं करना है. You sing the way you want to sing within your own range, but sing correctly, using the correct note. Using of correct note is more important than trying to match your pitch with the original singer. वो गलत चीज है.
If this is one lesson that we could capture from this very rich conversation with you, I would say the ability to discern between imitation, emulation, and innovation.
Correct, ma'am. Correct.
And you've been so profound and so insightful and so passionate about talking about these things. These are not issues that we centrally deal with in our XENA conversations, but these are themes that we will return to repeatedly, week after week. So thank you for being our guest. It's been lovely having tea with you in this salon, and I will have to ask this.
My tea has gone cold. मैं भूल गया बात करते करते. But however,
can we have the recorded song?
Yes, let's conclude with a recording by Colonel Saab.
famous number Quando, 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 in my own way.
Tell me, when will you be mine? Tell me cuando, cuando, cuando we can share a love divine. Please don't make me wait again. When will you say yes to me? Tell me cuando, cuando, cuando you mean happiness to me. Oh, my lover, tell me when. Every moment's a day. Every day seems a lifetime. Let me show you the way to a joy beyond compare. I can't wait a moment more. Tell me cuando, cuando, cuando. Say it's me that you adore. Then, darling, tell me when. Every moment's a day. Every day seems a lifetime. Let me show you the way to a joy beyond compare. I can't wait a moment more. Tell me cuando, cuando, cuando. Say it's me that you adore. And then, darling, tell me when. Oh, my darling, tell me when. Oh, my darling, tell me when.
I
Wow.
like the ending.
I was beating my foot to it and rocking from side to side. Colonel
Okay.
Sahab, thank
Thank
you for
you.
joining me in this XENA Star Salon's premiere event. I thank you very much. Thank you all for listening. Good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye.